So thank you all for coming. For those of you who missed it online, we had cake and champagne. And because my wife's the one that buys it, she bought better stuff. So we were going to do a toast out there, but since we're in here and everybody doesn't have their drinks anymore, this is just a thank you toast to the hell we've been through on getting the Mark closed, which is now Mustang Ridge, but thank you. We'll tell you that story in a minute. But again, thank you for coming out. Really appreciate it. And we'll have some, let's just tell you the story now. Okay. Mustang Ridge is the new name of the property. We had to change the name because they trademarked their name and that's the properties that they own. And it was the Mark, now it's Mustang Ridge. It's closed, finally. This has been the most hellacious transaction we've ever been through. We've had it under contract since December. And for those of you who's invested in the Mark, okay, well, thank you first and foremost. Put it under contract at about $76 million. At that time, $76,750. And we had it under contract. They were selling two properties, and a lot of you have already heard this, so I'm going to repeat. They were selling two properties, one in Denton, one in Weatherford. We didn't get the one in Denton, we got the one in Weatherford. The people that were buying Denton were doing a thing called a PFC, Public Facilities Corporation. And what that does is it's kind of like a public-private partnership where the Public Facilities Corporation, in this case, Weatherford Housing Association, would come in and buy the property with us, but because it's a public housing company, they don't pay any property taxes, okay? About 25% of our total expenses are property taxes, okay? Huge, huge number. And here's a test. Here's a test for you. Okay, for every $1 we increase the NOI, how much do we increase the value of the property? 20. There you go, 20. Anon, the winner there. Yeah, that's at a 5 cap. Okay, so it's $1 divided by 0.05. So if we got rid of property taxes at $1.5 million, how much does that increase the value of the property? 30 million on that. 30 million, but again, there was other expenses. So we were calculating a $20 million increase in the value of the property. So we said, okay, put the brakes on this. The seller actually said, you know what? I wish we weren't selling it to you because we would go do this PFC. And they said, we'd like to go through this process, help you go ahead and do it so we learn how to do it so that we can do it on our other properties. And we said, okay, it'll make us an extra $20 million. Yes, let's go ahead and do that. So then we changed our private placement memorandum, changed all the numbers, went out and reshopped all the debt and all the equity, and there's a lot of equity that likes to buy those, likes to invest in those, and started going down that road. Meanwhile, back at the farm, there's a PFC group in a suburb of Houston somewhere, or Austin, somewhere down there. And they said, hey, wait a minute. We can go ahead and be the PFC and buy in other areas and partner up with those people, whoever's buying a property, and we can make this huge amount of fees. So they started doing those, not in their own backyard like the law was intended. They started doing them all over Texas. And they did like 27 of them in Houston. Okay, so when you all of a sudden get rid of all of your property taxes on that property, who's the most affected? What was that?
Government.
Biggest one is schools. Okay, it takes a lot of money out of the schools. City, county, state, schools, hospitals. So that takes money up. So the idea was for local housing authorities to work with the city to go ahead and pass those to provide affordable housing, because there was an affordable housing component to the whole thing, which is why they do it. But now an interloper, basically, somebody that set up something in some small town that didn't do anything in their own town and started doing it all over Texas for the fees. And City of Houston, 22 or 27 different properties, they did that without any approval from Houston. That pissed Houston off, okay? And so they went in and said, we got to close this loophole. So in their session this year, we're going through this process trying to get this done. Weatherford Housing tentatively approved our deal to go in and do the PFC. They took it to the city council, and the city council absolutely flipped a lid. What in the heck are you guys doing? Everything else. And then, this is my own opinion, they found a reason basically to terminate the entire housing board because of this. They said, no, we don't want to do this. What the heck are you guys doing? Get out. Basically fired them and put us back on square one. At the same time, they're trying to pass this law down in Austin to get rid of the PFCs, or at least change them up to be more in line with what the intent of the law was. And so we went to the city council trying to get that approved, and that was a whole big sales job trying to do that. Ultimately, they turned it down, and so we went with a different type of program, which was called a
Public housing,
PHA. Okay, and they had a program called a pilot program, which was payment in lieu of taxes. Okay, so we pitched that to them, and again, no, they didn't want to do that. And while it lowers, I'm going into a lot of detail, and I apologize for that. Cities can only raise their property tax collections by a certain percentage, okay? So, and this is all just a basic screw job in my opinion, okay? They can only raise it, I forget what it is, 3 or 4 or 5%, 3%. And so as the property values go up, they calculate what that mill rate is, what that tax rate is across all of their properties. And they said, oh, wait a minute, we're going to be raising our collections by 10%. That's too much. So we have to lower our millage rate down lower so that we can only collect 3% increase in overall taxes. So if they would have taken that property off of the tax rolls, it wouldn't have hurt them. What it would have done is that one would have come off the tax rolls. They would have made extra money from that coming off the tax rolls. And all of the other residents, rather than getting they would still get a decrease in their overall mill rate for all the properties, but it wouldn't be as low of a decrease if we went ahead and did this program. And it would have provided some affordable housing in Weatherford. It was a win-win-win-win-win, but they were short-sighted in my opinion, and they decided not to do it. At the same time, the state passed that no more, they changed the laws on how to do a PFC. You can still do them, but it needs a whole lot of approval, everything else. So that basically is dead in the water. So now we have to go back after we raised money the first time, redid the PPM, went to the PFC, told you guys all about it again, and then we had to come back around and do it again and do a new offering. And however, we were at 76,750. With that extra $20 million in value, they raised the price close to 80 million. Because if we're gonna make 20 million, they wanted to make some extra money because they're going through the work and giving us the time and working with us. Well, then we went back and said, okay, that's gone away. And so we're trying to get the price back down, and it was gonna be 76,750,000 again. And we said, wait a minute, look at this. Property taxes are higher, insurance is higher. Those things are affecting the property. And here's where the pucker factor on my side comes in. I've got $1 million in non-refundable earnest money, okay? This is the third time we've been through this, and I basically said $76,750,000 is not a good deal for the partners. So I actually canceled the deal and was gonna lose $1 million. That was me, not you. I don't have your money at risk at all, okay? Much to the chagrin of my wife, who just found out about this recently. And so that was $1 million I was going to walk away from, and actually was walking away from it 3 different times until we got the right deal, which we basically got the price down to $70 million. So another big reduction down to $70 million. So we got the price down to $70 million and went ahead to go ahead and do it. And we started raising the money again. And by the way, the appraisal came in at $78,500,000. We're paying 70. The appraisal came in at 78, over 78. So we got built-in equity now. So now it's a good deal for the partners. Okay, cash flows very little, if anything, but we're buying it at a big discount. First off, they were offered $110 million last January. So we're now paying $70 million, it appraised for 78. Okay, so that's what makes it a good deal. And even using what I would say sandbag numbers, the returns were 19.68% average annual return over 5 years. Okay, but because we don't know what the market's going to be doing, we were conservative on our numbers and we're saying no cash flow and dumbed it down so that it's that way. And that's what we did. Now, one more final challenge to this whole thing is I had 2 other people that were going to be helping raise money for this because it was about an $18 million capital raise. It's a lot of freaking money. Okay. We had private equity that came in with $18 million. So they liked the deal. They invested $18 million in it. We had to raise $18 million. They wanted to get it closed. And we said, hey, we need more time. We need more time to raise the rest of the money. So the seller said, well, how much do you need? And we said, well, right now, $4.7 million. And they said, okay, we'll invest the $4.7 million into the deal. And so that we can get this closed. And we said, we're still going to be raising money. We've still got a lot of contacts of people that want to get into it. And they said, that's perfectly fine. Any money you raise, you can go ahead and do that and pay us off pretty much by the end of the year. So now you can still get into the mark. And the biggest benefit for that is about 50% first year tax deduction because of bonus depreciation. So that's where your biggest value is that. Hedging against inflation, buying that property, buying it at a discount, and a big tax deduction year 1. And besides that, the property is gorgeous, okay? It's the nicest property we have. Frankfurt is somewhat close, but still this one's even nicer. And in Weatherford, right across the street from college, high growth area. And I want you all to see it. You guys saw the videos. So we're gonna do an open house on September 30th. So come on out for that. Come on out and visit the property. It's a ways out there for some of you. It's about 25 minutes on the other side of Fort Worth. But come on out, that's a Saturday morning, 10 to 12. Come on out, take a look, tour the property. We'll be out there with drinks and snacks and things like that and show you around because it is a beautiful property. Definitely want you to see it. We're very proud of it and very proud of the deal, which, by the way, this dragged on so long. And Kelly and I had a vacation planned, and we were in Yellowstone during the negotiations as far as getting this thing done. And Julian was here holding down the fort, pulling out his hair.
I don't have a whole lot of hair.
And he doesn't have a whole lot to pull out. So we're in Yellowstone, and there's no cell phone service or internet in Yellowstone. So I'm like driving to some place, holding my phone up, trying to be on conference calls to work with him. And Julian was extremely gracious on holding this all together while I was out of town. So I have a big personal thank you to Julian for doing that and for all his work involved. Okay. Yeah, pass around the plate, yeah. It's $100,000 checks though instead. So if you still are interested in investing, come on out, take a look at the property, talk to Julian and Garrett and Jeff, and they'll hook you up. Okay. Next thing, who's invested in 1019? Hey, how about that? We are negotiating a contract. Contract is not signed yet, but they're doing their, we give them a little early access because nowadays the market's changed, so we don't have non-refundable money day one. That's kind of gone away right now, but we said, you know what, I'm not going to put it under contract with you, not knowing that you're going to close, because we had call for offers, we had all those offers in, the best offer we had, and so we went back to them and said, here, we'll give you 7 days, look at it, then you put up your earnest money, and that's non-refundable day one. So we're negotiating the contract while they are starting their due diligence out there. So we're looking at selling that. So that could be 60 to 90 days out on selling that property. So we'll get that one out. So again, for those of you who are going to make money on that, you're going to have to reinvest somewhere so you get the bonus depreciation so you don't pay taxes. Okay? Any questions on that? Yeah, you can roll that into the mark. We'll have by the end of the year to go ahead and do that to get into the mark. Credited only in the mark, unfortunately, and we're not going to do that anymore. Accredited only, I'll talk about that in a minute. Kristen, come here. Yep, you got to get up here. Here, go give her the microphone. This is Kristen Wright, one of our dearest friends. And she has finally gotten off her butt and doing something she's wanted to do for a couple of years. And she is one of the smartest people I know, one of the best communicators I've ever met in my life. It's funny how she can tell me I'm fat and ugly and smell funny, and I say thank you. So she has great communication skills, and as such is now promoting that. So tell us all about your YouTube that you're doing.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So thank you for that. Was this recorded? Did anybody capture?
It's all recorded. It's being recorded right now to come out.
So I worked in corporate for 22 years for Verizon on their executive leadership team. And then I left there and I became a realtor, residential. I have my own team. But I have had the incredible benefit of having so much training for communication. A lot. And at Verizon, they invested quite a bit in our self-development every year for the executive leaders. And so I learned it. And I still have people that are very consistently asking me for advice on how to effectively communicate, whether it's with C-level leaders, whether it's with employees, whether it's with your spouse. I mean, like, it's just across the gamut. And so I still make a tremendous amount of mistakes. I share my mistakes very willingly and openly so that people can learn from them. There's a lot of data and research that talks about how people learn so much from other people's mistakes as well as our own. And so they're very short videos. It was terrifying for me to do this. I will not be winning any Oscars whatsoever, but they're very short. None of them will be over 7 minutes, but they're just about topics that we all face. The next topics that are coming out, we're going to do one every 2 weeks, but we have one on how you communicate your mistakes in the workplace to your employees, to your boss, to your peers, to your customers or your clients. We have one about cultural diversity. And how do we effectively communicate with people that are different from ourselves? That's a really good one. And yeah, we're not afraid of difficult topics at all, or topics that people are afraid of. And then the other one is, how do you ask for more money? A lot of people are coming up to their year-end reviews, regardless of your role. And this is one of the things that I get the most calls on is, Kristen, how do I ask for more money? I'm actually really good at that advice. So I didn't get it every time. I asked every time. I would usually get a raise. I would get a raise, but then I would get what I was asking for in addition to that about 50% of the time. So it never hurts to ask, right? As long as you do it the right way. So that's my thing.
How do you go on there?
And the way you go on, I don't know. So
I think that's it right here, right?
Yeah, it's Kristen Wright 8036 is my little thingy. And yeah, I would love your feedback. So If you absolutely are like, girl, that was awful, please give me your feedback. But I would love it if you didn't add that to the comments under the video. Okay, but I do want your feedback. Or yeah, anything. Your transparency is appreciated. Yeah.
There. Be the reason.
Thank
Name and
you.
be the reason. Perfect.
Thank you. Well, does this picture pop up? Because my real estate team has a.
Microphone up.
Oh, sorry. Perfect. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Darwin.
One more thing. Stay there.
Oh, yes.
Stay there. Which she is a residential broker there and runs her own team, and she is brilliant. And like I said, okay. So the other thing that we signed you up to do.
Oh, yeah. This is great.
Okay, and we've had a lot of comments from women who would like to have their own group. So Kristen and my wife Kelly are going to kind of be hosting that.
Yeah.
And so so how's that going to work? Any idea?
Well, you asked me, right? I
Mhm.
don't know. So I think we're doing lunch, and it's just for the ladies. Sorry, guys, but just come with your questions. And there's no question that is stupid. Investing in real estate is challenging. It's very challenging. And so I think the goal is just to have a really safe place to just ask anything and everything and figure out what makes sense to you, what doesn't, how do you want to build on it, do you want to wait, do you want to do it now, things about the market, things about what Darwin brings to the table. So the reason we started investing in Darwin is because we trust him, and he's just his level of expertise is crazy, and he's built a team with the same. So it's just going to be an intimate environment with lunch provided, and who doesn't like lunch provided, and just for the girls, just for us to talk. And it doesn't matter also if you've invested in 10 properties or if you haven't invested in one. Just please come. You will add value, and it will be valuable for you.
Good. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the co-host, Mr. Edgeler, I don't.
Is it going to be here?
It's going to be here. Yep. Here on October 5th, 11:30 to 1:30. Come anytime. If you can't be there at that time, then later, early, or anything else. And one more thing. Kelly, stand up. Stand up. This is my wife, Kelly, for those of you who don't know her. And she's the smarter one of the group, and obviously the better looking. So love her input. But it will be impossible to get her up here. So I can make other people, but I can't make her. Okay, I want to give a little update on what's going on in the market. Here you go, Julie. I did this little slide here. This is the year 2010, 11, 12, 13, all the way up to 22, and then into this year. And we make money in real estate 5 ways. Income, meaning cash flow. It's, for those of you who want to remember something, it's the ideal investment. Income, meaning cash flow. Depreciation for the tax benefits. Equity, that's equity capture on that one, on capturing equity. Appreciation, which happens over time, and also forced appreciation, and then leverage. So I went back and I started looking and saying, where were we in each one of these years? Okay, and where are we now? Because here's the whole thing. Let me ask you this. How many of you are afraid of what the market's doing?
Be honest now, come on.
The current market, be honest here. Real estate in, well, the whole economy. Who's worried about it? Okay. Now, keep your hands up for a second. Okay. Now, only put your hands down if that fear is going to stop you from investing. Wrong way. Yours is up. I know it is. Okay, because that's the whole thing. Warren Buffett, and I always accidentally say Jimmy Buffett, but Warren Buffett is, he said, be greedy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are greedy. And right now, you saw how many hands? They're afraid. You guys here who had your hands up and doing that, you're smart enough to realize that now is the time to actually be investing, okay? In the right things, obviously. You don't want to just be throwing money out there. But I went back and said, okay, where were we back in 2010, okay? Could we get income in 2010 on our purchases? Pretty much no.
Why was that, Darwin?
Why was that? I wonder what happened in 2008. I think most everybody in here is old enough to remember that. 2008, we had a big market crash. Go watch The Big Short. That's a fun one to learn about what happened. But at that time, everything shut down. Okay, everybody lost money. Okay, in 2008, 9, 10. It didn't have properties you bought then didn't have cash flow. Depreciation, it's got a dash on that because you had normal straight line depreciation. That changed in 2017. Why did it change in 2017? Trump tax cuts. That they added bonus depreciation, accelerated depreciation, which gave us huge tax benefits. Huge for real estate. Great having a real estate investor as president. And then as far as equity capture, you could buy properties below market value. Kind of like having it appraised for 78, we're paying 70. Okay. Appreciation, you were having appreciation because the dip was 2008 and 9, and then it was flat and started going up. And then leverage. Here's the problem. There was no money available. You couldn't get debt. Cash was king. Okay. So people that had cash made a whole lot of money. Just to give you a little history, when was the last big crash? Anybody? Prior to 2008. Not close. 1986 is really when it crashed. 87 was when Black Friday, was it Black Friday? Black Thursday? Black Monday, whatever it was. But in 1986, they had three things. They changed the tax code, they deregulated the banks, and tax code, deregulated the banks, and oil crash. And those things killed real estate. Just so you know, then it was down. And in 86, Dallas was one of the hardest hits in the country. Do you know what the state bird of Texas was in the early 80s? The crane, because of how much building was going on. That crashed and it stayed down. Normally, they say it's either a V recovery, where it just goes down and back up. They say it could be a cup that goes down. Could be a plate, takes a little bit longer. Well, in 86 to 91, it was a platter. It went down and stayed down. People in Texas said, I'm never buying property in Texas again. How we got our start is in 89, and came out from California, started buying. Then we had a client who said, hey, we've got $120 million, go invest that. So between 91 and 94, we paid cash for properties. And the average price was about $22,000 per unit for properties that were 5 years old. Okay, that was a killer deal. Same thing in 2008 then. That one went down. If you had cash, you could buy a lot because you couldn't get debt. Same thing, 2011, same scenario. 2012, 2013, 2014. It was the same deal. Couldn't get bank debt. Cash was hard to come by. People didn't want to invest, but you could still find great deals. And those were the times to buy great deals. I've asked this before. If you can go back in time and invest, what year would you want to go back and invest in? Yeah, but more real, more on this chart. 2014, yeah. That would have been about the best time. But if you were in 12, 13, and 14, you still killed it, okay? 2015, everything started lining up. Money came in. 2016, same thing. 2017, everything's lining up and going great, plus the tax benefits. 2008, everything. Now, 2019, we had a problem because there was no equity capture left. There was no value add deals became very rare. There wasn't something that you could go in there and buy below market at that time because everybody was flooding the market. You know syndicators that they probably came in about 2018. That's when they really started picking up with everybody raising money. 2017, again, big tax break, shot it up even higher. 2018, it's going higher. Then 2019, again, no equity capture. 2020, no equity capture. And in 2020, I've got an asterisk on my leverage. Okay, because Fannie Mae, who's conservative, said, here, this is the most we'll loan. Bridge lenders came into the market and they caused what I call the bridge loan bubble. And basically they came in there and a bridge loan, they loan you 80% of the purchase price based on the value 3 years from now. Okay, so they're going back and saying, okay, yes, if you bought here, the value 3 years, you're good. Well, they caused a bubble, and I'll show you some more graphs on that. So that's the whole reason you could still get leverage, but that was because of bridge loans. 2020, COVID, people moved. COVID was just it was a lot scarier. It was not as bad as we thought it was going to be. 2021 went freaking crazy with all the money that got flooded into the market. Everybody's getting payments. Everybody's doing that. They're moving up. Rents are going up. Inflation starts. 2020 hits. 22. Interest rates go up. Property values go down. Leverage is gone. Bridge lenders are gone. They're back out of it. If you want agency debt, you're getting about 50, 60% loan to purchase price. People are afraid to invest because the whole market went down and they don't want to lose. And so that's the whole thing. Be greedy when others are fearful. That's when they're greedy, is 2022. When they're fearful, 2022. And now we're in 2023. Okay. Interest rates went way up. We're pretty close to the top of interest rate rising, I think. Maybe one or two small bumps, because if they go too much, they're going to cause a recession. But now income, it's hard to get. Because if you're going to get debt on these, your debt is a lot more expensive. And there's still a big, anybody trade stocks? Who trades stocks? Okay. Bid and ask. The difference between bid and ask has grown substantially because owners said, hey, wait a minute, I need this amount for the property. And look, it's only worth this. People we bought the mark from were realistic. They marked it to where the market would sell, which was very good of them, whereas a lot of people, they can't. There's a lot of people getting hurt. There's one property, who's heard of tides? Okay. What's that? Roscoe took them all over? Did they? I did not know that. But one example, because you know about the guy that raised $70 million, bought a portfolio, and 14 months later got foreclosed on. $70 million wiped out like that. This one particular property, they paid $250 million for it, $50 million in equity, $200 million loan in default, and the property is only worth $125 million. Okay, so there's a lot of people getting hurt, and that's why we're very specific on what we buy to make sure that we're buying right. Now, we're not immune to what the market does. Back in 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, it was really cap rate compression that increased the value of the properties. Cash flow wasn't a lot higher, but the cap rate compression increased the value of the properties. And so any idiot that went out and bought a property and didn't do anything to it would wait 6 months and sell it for a profit. I'll show you that in a second. So what I'm trying to say is, if we look at this, where we are in 2023, 2 X's, 3 check marks, that's pretty much where we were in 10, 11, and 12. And 13 and 14. So however you want to look at that, that's the reason, one of the reasons why I think it's good to buy. Put it in graph form. Okay. These are Class A properties. Okay. For those of you who can't see, the orange line is central business district. Blue line's urban, green is suburban. Okay. These are Class A properties. Okay. And this is from CoStar, who tracks all this. Now the black vertical line, that's where we are right now. From now on, that's the forecast. Okay. And you can see these, you can't see the little hash marks. This is after Q2 of 2023. Okay. So they've got 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. I really like, this really illustrates what I was talking about. Going up there, this spike, that's the bridge loan bubble right there. That's what I called it. Okay. The bridge loan bubble. Basically, it helped out sellers because people could borrow more money to pay more money for the properties. So that bridge loan bubble is what popped. What caused all the problem is that easy money from bridge loans. Okay, and so now we're back down here. The forecast is just a little dip and then going up. Okay, so again, another big reason to buy. That's the forecast for Class A. What's funny, okay, Class A, Class B properties, same chart, right? Class C. Now the only thing different on this one is the orange line, Class C properties in Central Business District. What happened here? 2020? COVID. So C quality properties took a hit because everybody's moving out of the urban core and getting out of the suburban, get away from it. Plus so many job losses, they had to get out of there anyway. So that was the only difference in Class C. Let me go back to Class A real quick.
So the question, what's the rationale for this bid for 2023?
What's the rationale for this? Okay, if you look at this, this should have gone up and stayed solid. Okay, that right there is bridge loans came in there, gave free money. I don't want to say free money. They gave easy money to buy properties, which drove prices up. Income was going up because everybody was getting rental assistance and they didn't really care. They could pay more on rent, so some people went up to other properties. And so that's what had it jump up. All this was, that dip, is the correction getting it back to where it should be. And it's all driven, it's all economic driven. It's interesting. 2022, right here, that's where they were offered $110 million for the mark. Okay, which that is about $310,000 a unit, which is what they were offered. And now it's down here in the, and actually we're paying less than that, in the 250 range. We're paying right about here for the mark. Okay. Actually, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. That's completely wrong. I know. I was looking at the wrong line. Okay. So yeah, we've got to go to the suburban. They were at the 250 mark, and now it's down at 197. Sorry, wrong line. Screwed that up. But it gives a good illustration of where we are and why we want to buy. Okay. Who thinks now is a good time to buy? Okay. Good time to invest. Yeah.
So when you say Class A, this is just property that you guys are buying, not new construction, or property?
This is a report from CoStar, and what they're talking about, Class A properties, basically new construction. Call it that. Class B properties are, well,
Mid-80s to mid-90s to late
but now, because I would class, that's what we used to say is Bs starting in the 80s. I would say Bs are really in the 90s now because of the age.
But the only reason I lumped the 80s in there is because there was so little construction in the
So little construction in the early 90s, absolutely. Okay, so those are reasons to buy now.
Darwin, if you don't mind indulging me,
Jump in here.
this one right here. This is one of the reasons that we here at, who said that? Leave it. One of the reasons we made a conscious decision here and right during COVID, right after COVID, is that this trough is not only the flight from the urban core, but those are C-class properties that were hit very hard by COVID. These are the primarily workforce housing, blue collar, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. These people could not zoom in to work. These people had jobs they had to leave the house for, and a lot of those jobs were deemed non-essential, and they lost their jobs. And that's why we see this that you don't see in the other charts, and made a huge difference. And so we made a conscious decision never to go back into this class of real estate unless it's an absolute steal, because not only is it a challenge to operate these properties given the age and the physical plant. Take the cast iron waistlines, which have been Amber Vista. Okay, that's between us. Very difficult to manage properties like that. So we said no more of this. If you've been around long enough, we have been upgrading all of our acquisitions now, and we're really shooting for, it doesn't have to be new construction, but newer construction. In fact, we are looking very heavily at one right now that's 2016, and we're hoping to have more information on that next week. But that to us is stay away from. So if you're out there being pitched anything from the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, run, don't walk from that property.
Here's another reason why we did that. If this is Class A properties, Class B properties, and Class C properties, and these are cap rates, there was a big gap between the C's and the B's and the B's and the A's. As so many people came into the market, that got squeezed. So the same cap rate for a C quality property as an A quality property, why would you buy a C? There's too much risk on it, so we said forget about that. Okay. Any comments on any of those graphs?
I have a question about the orange line was, what'd you call it?
Core. That's downtown.
And then what's the difference in urban and downtown?
Okay, let's say Central Business District is downtown Dallas, downtown Fort Worth. Then you have the bigger rings, think 635 or even George Bush for urban, and then the green is suburban. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. That's where we are in the market and why we are happy about buying. I mentioned in one of the previous meetings, we thought, how do we adjust our buying strategy? And we started going through all the different points we look at, and we said, wait a minute, we don't need to change anything. We have the same strategy as we did 10 years ago, which is why we didn't buy anything. The only slight change that we have is that, going back to this one, I didn't buy as much in those years because there wasn't as much income. Okay, so now I'm saying, okay, if we're really going to be buying now, can't be as hung up on making sure that there's really good income, because I know you guys all look at your portfolios and you're saying, wait a minute, why should I invest in that, not make any cash flow? I could stick it in a CD and make 5% or even more. Okay, so it's a competition between where you put your money, because you've got plenty of options. You might say, I want to stay completely liquid, put it in there and earn 5%. But I think the new inflation number that I was reading about on real inflation was like 10% still. So you're still losing money overall. In real estate, it keeps up with inflation, which is why you want to be there. But so right now we're not quite as aggressive on buying properties with income with good cash flow as we are buying good deals. Okay? Because back here, if you bought good deals, you made a killing, right? You want to go back down to 12, 13, 14? Same scenario. Okay? Switching gears. Our best, we did the mark as a 506C so that we could advertise. 506B, we cannot advertise. 506C, we can, but we can only have accredited investors. And we had, sorry, that made me smile, we had, completely lost my train of thought now. We can only have accredited investors. We have unaccredited investors that have said, they pledged like $10 million saying, I want to invest, I've got this money. Sorry, we can't get you in on the mark. So now we're going to switch gears and not do 506Cs anymore because the money we spent on advertising isn't really going anywhere. We're not making that big of an impact. The biggest impact that we receive is the best source of potential investors, referrals. That's you guys, okay? And we have some extreme amount of referrals from people in this room. I'm going to use Kristen again as an example because she's been great. Because she's in real estate, she knew a lot of people. She said, hey, I know a lot of people that want to learn about investing in real estate. Can you come on over to the house? I'll buy pizza and we'll go ahead and talk. And I did a presentation, just nice and simple and casual in our living room, talking about real estate, what we do, how we make money, asking questions. They get a little more pointed then rather than being in a public forum. And it's casual and it's comfortable for you to invite family, friends, whoever out, or we can go to a restaurant, things like that. So rather than spending the money on advertising, then we want to spend it with you guys. So if you want to have, if you have some friends you want to tell about this, or you want to have a meeting, quite honestly, you might say, I think Darwin's full of crap, and so I want to get some of my friends together to drill him to see if it makes sense. We could do that too. I'm open to it, okay? So if anybody wants to have some meetings, we're talking small, 5, 10 people, no big deal, then we'll start scheduling those about one a week. And so if you want to host one of those, then it's also a little bit of kudos to you as far as some way to make it a little more worth your while. But to have those meetings and bring in other people, then we're open to do that. So just send an email over to Garrett, and he'll coordinate that. And that would be, me, Garrett and Julian, or me and Kelly. Come out, mix and mingle. We'll buy some snacks, some food, whatever, dinner, and go ahead and meet with you guys. Is anybody interested in doing that, or am I just, okay, good. Yeah, feel free. We can go ahead and do it and give some education if need be, or anything else. So I'm an open book, so you can go ahead and do that, okay? So that's all we had for this evening.